Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. Hi again. How are you?
Good. I was going to say my fellow Detroiters, I always like to say,
Yes, indeed. It's good to see you again.
always a pleasure. And enjoyed this movie because of just a lot of things, that even in my family from back in the day.
Hmm.
Now, this was your directorial debut.
Hmm.
You also wrote the screenplay. You
Hmm.
also were the producer, and
Hmm.
Lord knows what else you may have been in charge of. Craft services, whatever.
Definitely not craft service. No.
But talk a little bit about what the story about what intrigued you so much to want to make this. I mean, great.
Because sort of frankly, it's a timeless and extraordinary work of literature.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute travesty that there's not a film before now. Uh, it doesn't make any sense to me. Don't get me wrong, I'm really lucky that I got to do it, but
Mhm.
it's madness that it hasn't been made before now. That said, even in Nella Larson's time, I think it was celebrated, but it was also misaligned. Like people didn't quite get it. A lot of people took it at face value and assumed it was this sort of very basic sort of morality tale of like one Irene being the morally righteous one and Claire being the morally dubious one who must be punished, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And I suspect on some level that where we are now today, there's more nuance and sophistication around these discussions, that we can see what she was really trying to do, and she was actually, she telegraphs that it's about this one woman who's hiding her racial identity, but actually it's about the other one who's not hiding her racial identity, but is hiding everything else about herself. And I think that's something that we can see now and maybe not didn't see so clearly in 1929. So there's that, blessings and whatever's to it, the film being made now.
Right. And like you said, I'm glad you did it. That's fantastic. Because like you said, it's just this fascinating story. I told Andre, just to interject this part, my father's side of the family is very well mixed. And he had a cousin who in the 1940s wound up doing the same thing. He left Michigan, moved to California,
Oh,
and
really?
took on a whole new identity because, couldn't get a job here, couldn't get
Yeah.
things done.
Yeah.
And you go out there and at the
Yeah.
time, and people, like you
Yeah.
said, just look at you at face value.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
So now talk a little bit about also making this because this not only is a movie about, like you said, this great story, but also a period piece.
Mm.
Talk a little bit about that. I mean, because we even mentioned about the fashion and different things like that. And Andre talked about riding in one of the cars through Harlem, and he said people were just waving
Yeah.
because they saw this big, beautiful car.
Yeah. It was a great day there. I remember that very clearly. Yeah, it was a funny thing. I was being very willfully counterintuitive a lot of the time. There's this sort of common understanding of the 1920s as being the jazz age, and therefore noisy and loud and boisterous and kind of colorful and like clashing fabrics and all this sort of thing. And I counterintuitively wanted to make a very small film that felt almost claustrophobically narrow in its view. Um, the kind of the monotony of Irene's domestic life, that she only sees this one bit of street, so we only ever see it from one angle. The kind of repetition of her with the groceries and then falling asleep in a chair. And so the period details sort of succumbed to the kind of atmospheric, expressionistic intentions of the film, and there are things like, for example, Nora Mendes, our brilliant production designer. I always remember her saying to me, the 20s, everyone had prints on their walls and then they had prints on their couches, and then that would clash with everything else. And I was like, that's true. And I love that. But
Mhm.
I want Irene's house to feel not quite a full expression of herself, because she isn't fully expressing herself because she doesn't know how to. She's so oppressed and repressed in that way. So her house needs to feel more like a prison, actually, despite it's being a safe place. And minimalism is going to help with that, because it feels like she hasn't quite worked out how to be in her house. So the chair is sort of alone and there's not a lot on the walls, and the walls are sort of clean a lot of the time. And that's not really period accurate. Similarly, all women would have worn hats in the 20s.
Mhm.
And Claire, for example, she's hardly ever in a hat in the movie. And also a lot of her costumes, thanks to the brilliant Marcy Rogers who did the costume designs, a lot of her costumes are from the 40s and have a little flair of the 50s too. And that's very deliberate to sort of take it out of time and place and make her feel like this sort of separate, liberated entity. Because for as much as she's performing herself, she has a freedom. Like, she has a very easy relationship with her desires, and she's kind of radical in that sense. She's like, I want something, I'm going to go get it, and I don't care about the consequences. So I wanted her to feel and look kind of modern in this world. So yes, period details we were a little fuzzy on, but not in a kind of detrimental way, I hope.
Right. No. Oh, no, no. Nobody's gonna go, they didn't have color TVs back then. No, nobody.
No, that would be just foolish.
That's right. Rebecca, always a pleasure talking to you.
You too, thank
Again,
you.
congratulations on this film. Thank you so much, and we'll make sure all of your Detroit family and friends here definitely get out and
Yes.
see it. All right.
Here's to Detroit.
You got it. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
Hi, we're so
We're
well. Sorry,
nosy.
we're looking at your cool backdrop.
Oh, great.
We love it. Is that Charlie Chaplin?
Yep. Got Charlie Chaplin. Oops.
Yeah.
There.
Very Gordy.
Yep. Barry on that side.
Audrey Hepburn,
Yep.
Darth Vader.
Amazing.
Who are the on that side? It looks like a family photograph. What's that?
That's my mom's family. That picture's from the 1930s.
No
Her and her
way.
Yes.
brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Amazing.
Kind of like the same time, with the movie and things. But yeah, that's been a joy. At the end, I'll bring it over and I'll show it to you real quick.
Please do.
But yeah, I got to tell you, this is one of those movies, like even Rebecca said, it's amazing that a story like this hasn't been done before along this lines, because we think about it, Ruth, here's your lady. She's carefree, likes to have a good time, except she's got one big secret. And most people don't want to, tell their significant other that maybe they spent $100. Yours was a lot bigger than that surprise.
Yeah. And you know what, actually, I only, not that I only realized, but watching the film on the big screen for the first time and seeing the kind of unbearable tension in the room when, with the three of us, with Alexander Skarsgård's character and ours, the tension and the uncomfortableness of it just screamed out from the screen. And I really saw this woman's, I don't know, because, she kind of dismisses a lot of it, like, oh, he doesn't know, it's fine. But you really saw there, you got a glimpse into what could happen if he found out. That could be the danger that people lived alongside with every day, every minute of the hour, of being found out by people who love them. That they are not what they appear. And you thinking, at what cost? What would happen to that love? Would it suddenly evaporate if he suddenly found out that she's a Black woman? I mean, that's interesting, isn't it? It makes, and the more you dig deeper into that, and the more you delve, the more you realize the folly of these racial silos and boxes that we insist upon still to this day, is actually, they are mirages that don't help us with anything. In fact, they impede us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like you said, she was the same person on Monday that she was on Tuesday, but then on Wednesday, it's like, oh, no, wait, whoa. And then Tessa, here you are, you're her childhood friend. You happen to run into each other, and you just kind of then see what's going on. But then also in the life of your character, Irene, she's also got some things going on as well with her home life that just kind of make her a little, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but just, just like, okay, let me just go along with things.
I like that summation of her. Yeah, I think arguably Ruth's character Claire is the one that is passing, and yet I think Irene is the one that's passing in every other way. She is not being quite honest with herself or the people in her lives about who she really is. I think inside of her there's this real desire to have life outside of just domesticity. I think there's a tremendous amount of fear. I don't want to tell audiences what to
that's
she's got some things going on. But that was a real a challenge for me, because I think she's someone who unlike Ruth's character, isn't very verbose about what she's thinking or feeling. And
Right.
so there's this tension with how do you, you know, show and also not show. I've
Mhm.
not really I've played characters that are internal before, but not like this, and certainly not with a piece of source material, because Nella, it's only 93 pages, but
Oh,
it's
wow.
so it's so dense what happens, and there's so much. It's not told in first person, but it's very much inside of Irene's experience, and she's experiencing so much. So how do you communicate that? I had all these notes in the margin of my script, which is everything that Nella said. So it was almost like playing a piece of music, which I've never done anything like that before.
Right. I mean, it's a whole intriguing story. I know we could talk for hours. I'm quite sure about the whole thing. But ladies, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the movie and your time. And here, as promised, I did say, yeah, this was them back in 1931.
Wow.
And that's my mom, my Uncle Bill, my Aunt Irene, and my Uncle Rufus.
That's
So,
amazing.
yep, so that's a definite family heirloom. But thank you for allowing me to share it with you both.
Sharing it.
All right. Take care.
See you.
André Holland, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Oh man, just so much about this movie. I think it's because I'd heard stories from my parents about people who were doing that exact same thing, back in the 40s and different times like that. Could you imagine living in a world where you had to, just kind of like really hide who you are just so people would accept you?
Yeah, it's powerful, Greg. I also growing up, remember my parents telling me stories about, people that they knew who passed, or, it was yeah, quite a topic of discussion in our house. And I think that the question you asked about what it must have been like to have to pretend to be something that you're not, or to kind of hide parts of yourself, really gets at what I think is at the heart of this particular film, is that yes, there are characters like Claire who are passing for, one race or another, but also all the characters in the film in some way are passing for something, um, are hiding parts of themselves, which I think is what is driving Brian in part to get out of there and to find another place to live, because he doesn't feel like he can be his whole complete self where he is.
Right, because I was going to say, your character's married to Tessa Thompson's character,
Yeah.
and yeah, you had, kind of like some ups and downs, even, differences on raising the kids too, where you wanted to be the dad. I mean, get them to do things, and she had a different idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of an impossible argument, isn't it? Because they're talking about how to keep their kids safe from racial violence, and Tessa's character feels like, let's not tell them what's going on in the world, and Brian feels like, no, they're gonna see it anyway, so let's just show it to them. Let us be the ones to educate them about it. And both sides are right in a way. The kids
Mhm.
should be entitled to have a peaceful childhood, and they should also know the truth about what's going on. So that debate, that argument was one of the things that really drew me to the film.
And also, this is Rebecca Hall's first her directorial debut, I should say. She also wrote the screenplay and one of the producers. Talk a little bit about working with her and what it was all about.
Well, I was a big fan of Rebecca's as an actor. I always thought she was so precise and thorough in her performances, and she was the same as a director. In reading the script, you can see how she's really put thought and care into every single line that she wrote. And then on set on the day, it was the same thing. She knew exactly what she wanted. She knew exactly what the frame needed, and what part of the story was being told by which element.
Right.
So it really made you as an actor feel secure and confident that you were in good hands.
Oh, great. I was gonna say we adopt her because her mom's from Detroit. So I always call
Yeah,
her my fellow Detroiter. So it's like, all right.
that's right. That's right. Uh,
But yeah, I mean, like you said, it just was that thing, because I'll just even share this story with you. My father had a cousin who, my dad's side of the family was very well mixed. And in the 1940s, yeah, he just couldn't stand what was going on and moved to California and assumed a whole new identity. And,
wow.
you just kind of hear those things and it's like, man, where now, it doesn't appear, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
uh, to be something like that where you'd have to go and change it. But yeah, I always heard about that and just kind of thought, man, that's just kind of, something weird to do. But
Yeah.
you do what you have to do to make some money too.
Yeah. That's right. Make
Yep.
make money to survive, to be safe. Yeah.
Hmm. And then also talk a little bit about just you being in that time period,
Mhm.
you know, with the cars, the suits, and the different things like that.
Yeah, I love doing period things. You know, I'm a big student of history, and so getting to learn about different periods of history, and then take those histories personally as an actor is really exciting. I love the clothes. Marcy Rogers was our costume designer, and she just did such a beautiful job. Um, the cars. One of the first days that we shot was a driving scene, and so riding through Harlem, in one of those old '20s cars
Uh-huh.
was so much fun. Seeing people wave and point, yeah, it's really great.
Oh, that does sound like fun. And like you said, that was just such a beautiful time, really, for dressing for
Oh
both
yeah,
the men and the women. I mean, everybody always looked sharp.
oh yeah.
I gotta tell you, Andre, you always look sharp.
Oh,
And thank you so much for spending this Saturday afternoon with me.
thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here.